enough with the bullshit.
Yeah, we can go as long as you want. Whatever works, man. I've definitely.
Yeah, man. I just say we go as long as we're feeling it. So whatever you want to do.
Cool, brother.
It's good to see your face.
Good to see your face, man. What are you drinking? Eggnog?
Eggnog and a little vodka. Which is probably not smart because I was kind of sick for like 3 days.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what I had. Like a minor fever, is like 99, and I just felt like the chills and like no other symptoms. I'm just like, okay. And then Nick said the same thing, ran through his whole family at his house. I was like, all right, maybe it's a weird fucking COVID strain or something, but could feel all right today.
Yeah, dang.
So what's going on with your shoulder?
It's like a chronic progressive thing that's gone on forever. I did the same thing to this one, and it's probably from moving heavy stuff and wear and tear is all I can give it its credit from gym time. I can only imagine, but I was told that I also have like smaller joint spaces, and then when you have hypertrophic muscle or built muscle that starts encroaching on the area, I had a few things going on, but basically where the AC joint is, your clavicle meets the shoulder. I've got impingement syndrome there. So they basically cut off a portion of the clavicle so that it opens up and moves easier. And then I had a rotator cuff tear and a labral tear. They call it a slap tear. So
what does a rotator cuff tear feel like? Because I think I fucked up my shoulder like 15 years ago, and there's always been some weird shit going on in there.
It's a lot of pain with movement, and especially when you're trying to lift your arm, forward, and it feels weak, and then you have pain kind of deep. It might be because it kind of covers underneath the deltoid. It anchors to the humerus from the shoulder girdle itself. And so it can be more in the back, on the side, in the front, but usually there's weakness involved, and it's like a deep aching pain.
Okay. Probably not that then. I was drunk at my friend's house, and he had what are those like overhangs called, where there's like the wooden slats? They don't actually cover anything. Like the light still comes through, but we were all drunk and we were doing like a pull-up contest, and I just jumped and like hung too hard. I'm drinking and I just felt something go pop, and I was like, ooh. And then I didn't really feel it till the next day. And then I've always had some weird like pain and like cracks happening, but no weakness. So maybe it's not that bad.
It could be. You could still maybe have, I don't know. There's the shoulder is so complicated. It's a little over my head because that wasn't really my area. And even when I was talking to my shoulder surgeon today and we were kind of getting into it, I'm still like, even the anatomy is a little confusing because it's such a small space, but there's so many functions for these small tendons that attach here, and this does that. This muscle does this. And I don't know. It was just a long time coming, and I was finally like, I need to get this fixed while I have some time off. The kids are with their mom, and I can kind of knock out 2 weeks of recovery and then start working again.
Right. So you're not even in a sling or anything. I was expecting you to be like bandaged up or something.
I'm a week out, and I only have to wear it when I'm really in public now, in case, somebody hits me or knocks into me, and that way it doesn't jerk in a funny way. The next 4 weeks will kind of be like the sensitive part where I have to be careful. And then we'll start ramping it up. But he used like a new technology I call it tech. It's a patch, but it's a, bioidentical collagen type patch that they use for minor to kind of 50% rotator cuff tears. And they use it and they patch over that area and attach it to the tendon and kind of staple it down. And in 8 weeks, it's totally absorbed and it looks fleshy white like a tendon. And,
that's so crazy.
Recurrent tears are like 3% on it in the data that they have now. So,
wow,
it's different. Yeah,
that shit's amazing to me. I a lot more than I do about it, but it just like blows my mind the shit they can do now.
It's wild, I'm telling you. But no, I'm a lot better than I expected. I thought it was going to be the first 5 days were kind of a little rough, and it just feels heavy and stiff, and like even right now, I got to kind of lift it up to do stuff, but.
Right. Well, that's not bad though. You said it was a Christmas present to yourself.
Yeah. It was like, I can't go to sleep every night. It hurt. And I would toss and turn. It's been like that for I mean, at least a few years for this one. It was the same thing
Oh,
for
fuck.
this one, and this one is perfect now. I had the same surgery for that shoulder.
Well, that's good. So you knew what to expect then.
Yeah, so it is what it is.
Yeah, well, it was good to hear from you. I didn't do shit for Christmas this year. I was like, I was in Texas for Thanksgiving, hung out with Gladys, her family, and our friends Zach and Talia down there. And then when I came back, I was like, I'm not doing shit. I'm not traveling. And her and I both were like, we're gonna do the solo Christmas thing. You know, we just like both stayed home and like ate food and chilled and watched movies. And it's been a nice break from whenever I paused the podcast. I was like, I'm not doing shit the rest of the year. There's games coming out that I want to play, and I just want some time to like veg out. I played so much Battlefield 6, and then Arc Raiders like took over my life. I don't know if you know shit about those, but
I don't game at all, but it's funny. So both the kids, man, if you could see their setup, it's like one kid's like PS5, the other kid is Xbox. They have like the identical setup in their room. And they'll go in there, they'll put their headsets on, and then they're playing the same game together with my older son's buddies, and they're all in the same like arena doing stuff. And they've graduated to Battlefield is like they're like obsessed with that, and then they still dabble in Call of Duty and stuff. But they're like, oh, this is way better. This is more superior than that. And
that's true. They're right.
so
I played like every Battlefield game since like the third one, or Battlefield Bad Company 2, and now they're on 6. But there's been like so many in between the major ones. But like Arc Raiders is insane. Like there's this guy who's like blown up. His name's Burnt Peanut, and he's a streamer. And he's basically is a peanut on screen, and he's just like naturally so fucking funny and quick and witty. And even if you're not into games, he's so entertaining to watch the way he talks shit to other players. And like the lobbies are all open mics, so you can talk to anyone that's in there, just like old school Call of Duty days. And it gets fucking crazy. But yeah, it's been fun to just do nothing. And I was so like burnt out with like the EP we did and then the podcast every week, and I just needed a break, and took a way longer break than I planned on, but it was necessary.
So this is the I've got two bevs right here. So when this launches, we're going to be in 26.
Yes, it'll be January 1st.
Okay. So cheers. Happy New Year, brother.
Where's
Doink,
the camera?
Doink.
Merry Christmas, happy holidays, Happy New Year to everybody listening, if you're listening on New Year's Day.
But I want to dive into that with you, because I was thinking back. I was one of the earlier interviews. So, and thank you for having me back on again. It's not really an interview when you're talking to your buddy, but, and I feel like as we everybody that knows about Riff Taco and that listened, it really started taking off. And, I kind of, and I think most people that are in our world pay attention to when you would launch something, or you'd be like, hey, I dropped something new, or I got this guy on. And I travel a lot for work. So every time you'd drop a new episode or whatever, I would jump on and listen to it. And you were coasting. I can only imagine how difficult it is every day, not to mention holding your own job and not being completely reclusive and just being like, I have to do this. I got this timeline for this. I got this guest, got a plan down the road. You're a one-man show. And that's a lot of work. And I wanted to ask you about that, because you kind of were like, hey, I'm taking a pause. I think you did kind of like a solo episode or something. And then you were kind of like,
yeah, that was the last one I did.
Yeah. And you're kind of like, I think I'm done. So I was just curious, like, burnout, tired, it's hard to plan ahead, I'm sure. And then you got other stuff going on. I mean, was the time off as long as you wanted, or was it just like whenever it felt right to come back? And then what are your plans for the coming year with it, or where are you at with it?
I think I had taken like 2 weeks off, which felt like crazy to me, because I was so locked into every week, and it was this rigid schedule, and I was treating it like a job and a business. And then I did that solo episode 2 weeks later, and then the next week or two, I was thinking about who could I book. I didn't have anyone booked, and I was just like, I just don't fucking feel like it. Like I'm fucking cooked. Yeah. And there was like, there's so much work that goes into it, like probably 15 plus hours every week,
Man.
of booking, emails. I have like Excel sheets with schedules, everyone's guests, their information, the dates they're coming on. If like I have a note section, if they have to reschedule, you know, all that shit. And then the recording itself, and then the editing and the clips and the graphics. And like, then I threw in the newsletter and the website and like the Spotify playlist and like all the shit. And it's all great. And it's like very professional, but then it sucked all of the fun out of it.
It's supposed to be fun.
Yeah. And then, so I had to take a break and go, I'm starting to dread every week doing it.
Oh, no.
It's supposed to be fucking fun. And the conversations were all great. Like everyone was awesome. I feel super lucky that everyone who came on was great and they said yes. But like up to hitting record, I was like, ugh. And then as soon as we stopped, I was like, I have all this like work to do on top of my work, on top of writing an EP, on top of all this shit. And I think I just needed a minute to step back and go, okay, I don't have to do this every week. I can change how I do things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to treat every graphic like it's an album cover. I could like, no one's watching it for like what the cover art looks, you know, and I just needed to be okay with that and go, you know, I don't want it to be interviewee. Sometimes it felt like that because if you don't know someone, you're like, what are we going to talk about? So I would prepare.
That's normal.
Yeah. But I wanted it to feel with people I don't know as close as it would to like you and I just sitting down because we know each other and we can just riff for a couple hours. And it's hard to do that when you've never met someone and the first time is when they pop in this weird fucking Zoom call and like, let's just be natural. And like, so I had to like go, all right, I want to prepare less and I want it to be not interviewee and we can talk about anything. It doesn't have to just be like, tell me about the new album. Cause every podcast does that.
For sure.
And they're like, oh, this is going to be our best one for sure. You know, it's like all the same shit. So I'm like, I'll keep having musicians on, obviously, but I'll have other people on I'm interested in too. Just people I genuinely want to talk to. We can talk about anything. And well, of course, we'll cover all that shit. But I just like every podcast does that. Yeah. And so it's like, I'd rather get to know the other side of people. What are you into outside of music? Like, what's the weird shit you want to talk about? You know, like we got into the sleep paralysis stuff. Oh, yeah. Your and I's episode was one of my favorites this whole time, even though you were like my second guest, I think.
Yeah,
like,
I was a guinea pig.
So, yeah, I always wanted to have you back on. And then when you hit me up during this break, I was like already like planning, like, all right, for the new year, I want to kick it back off. And then I was like, why don't we just fucking do it now? And you said you were free today. So like, all right, we'll drop it on January 1st. Like, happy fucking New Year. So.
There you go, man. So on top of that, during the break, we also, you dropped the new music and American Heat. Met with your buddy who was in, what was the band he was in with you?
He was in Robinson.
He was in Robinson. That's what I thought. Okay. And man, you're riffing on that. And that's something like, I feel like you had the other band that was kind of similar to that, but I think it's another step from that. And I mean, obviously.
Yeah, he was the singer in that band as well. Okay. And then, so we kind of wanted to like rehash that, but develop it more always like what it should have been. Cause we wrote that Thunder Rider record in like record time. It's just like, we had a whiteboard. We came out of writing Robinson and From a Second Story Window shit. So like, this is going to be easy. Verse, chorus, done. Don't think about it again. And so this time I was like, I want to like develop that. I need to learn more about like playing blues scales and shit. Cause I don't know fucking anything. So, we took our time with it. It was just him and I programmed all the drums, used real samples and played the bass. Shout out to his brother for letting me borrow his sick 5-string for that. But yeah, we put a lot of time into that. Mike hadn't done shit in forever. I think since 2011 or 12 was the last time he did any music. So it was great to get him back in the fold and just do something with no pressure.
Any plans with it, or is it just a fun side project?
I think we'd like to play live. Nick said he'd want to play drums.
Nice.
It's just like, when do we want to do that? We also got to find someone to play bass. And it's a lot of work to like, with everyone's schedules and lives, to like do all this practicing. And it's like, then we play a couple hometown shows and it's like, that's so much work just to do that once or twice in a year. Oh, man. Do we want to do that? Or do we just want to keep putting out music? And, you know, I already started a new song with him, so we're going to keep going for sure.
Why not? I mean, I don't know. I could think about the effort that you said, the effort that goes into even just playing a single show and then feeling pressure like you have to follow the same algorithm that you do with every band. And it's like, you don't have to do that. Like, there are plenty of dudes, guys and gals that play music that just jam, write songs. They want to put out a record, maybe play a show or two or not, and they just do studio stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. Just being creative. We talked about that in the first episode that I was on. It's just, you got to feed that creativity sometime, and it doesn't matter, you know, what you do.
Yeah, just the act of being creative, like, fulfills me. So, like, if him and I did this and we didn't even put it out, I wouldn't really care. I'm just like, I have this piece of art, whatever, to, like, I can listen to it and go, I'm proud of that, and I'm stoked on this, and it makes me feel good that I got that out of me. And then beyond that, I don't care, because the kind of music we play, whatever band it is, it's never been about making money, clearly, or like being a business. You maybe thought that when you were young, but then you quickly realize, I'm doing this for the passion of it. Otherwise, I would have been in a rock band or, you know, a pop band or something.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's not happening otherwise. I don't know. I'm glad you got into that, man. It feels a little empty for me, I think. And I talk to a lot of the guys back home like that are in nights like these and kind of surround that world a little bit. And, you know, being a little vulnerable, it's hard getting people on the same page. And I feel like I get stupidly upset if nobody reciprocates something like that with me. And because those are the bulk of the people that I've written music with, and you kind of hold on to that. And you're like, hey, we don't even have to do much with it. I just want to write with you. But like you said, man, our lives are so different now. And I've had to be like, hey, it's okay. And it'll come back when it's time. If it does or it does not. I mean, strange stuff happens. I mean, when I was thinking back on the year since we kind of sat down and did our episode, we were going to do some summer shows. And then, you know, speaking of shoulders, you know, Patrick had a freak.
Oh yeah, Patrick.
Yeah, he had a freak accident where he actually ruptured his rotator cuff, like in 2 spots, I believe. I don't think he'd mind telling me telling the story, but freak accident. We were scheduled to do some stuff with the dudes in Heavy Heavy Low Low, and guys that we don't sound anything like, but again, connection from a long time ago. And they were kind of jumping on some stuff and doing some kind of tours out this way. I say this way, I mean,
that's right. Wasn't See You Next Tuesday on some of those or something? I was going to come see you guys if you came close.
No, they started, I think the Heavy Heavy Low Low guys started further north, and there was some confusion on what bands were jumping on or jumping off. We were just going to play some of the southern dates. Regardless, Patrick had his accident, and it was like immediate surgery. You couldn't wait on this stuff. Let the swelling go down, then we're going to operate. And we were bummed, and it's not his fault by any means, but it's just that kind of stuff happens. And then, man, it just makes you miss it, and you want to jump back into it even more. And Matt's a super accomplished, you know, audio engineer, and he's producing a lot of stuff in Memphis, and Darren's fairly busy with work. So is Sebastian. And you hold on to these friendships as tight as you can with a lot of these guys. And then you realize how old you're getting, and you just don't want to let go of certain stuff. And you want to write with them. You want to do this. I don't even live there. And it's just, it'll come back when it's time. And, you know, I look at all these bands coming out now, and I feel like there's like a new band like every hour that it pops into existence.
There's too many fucking bands, that's for sure.
I can't keep
But
up.
I was going to say that too, though. Like, as you feel yourself getting older, it's like every time you have one of these opportunities to get back out there and do it again, if that gets taken away, it's like, oh, that's one less that we're able to do. And it feels like clock's ticking, even though it never is as bad as you think, because we're so dramatic. Like, I remember thinking turning 30 was going to be insane, and I'm old, and now I'm 40.
Yeah.
And I feel better than I did when I was 30, like, about it, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's natural. And I think Patrick felt the same way. He was devastated, and we talk pretty frequently, and we all are fairly close. And I think it's just one of those things that, you know, you just got to roll with it, and music's always there. And props to the people that are our age and are continuing to do things. And even if I'm out of the loop on what their latest record is, it's still like, I mean, for example, I was thinking of like records this year that have come out that I've been kind of interested in, and kind of heavy music, because I don't listen to a lot of heavy music. but the Acacia Strain, right? Those dudes have been doing this for like 26 years, and they put out a record this year that was like very successful, and they're still doing it and selling out shows, and it's amazing to see. And then
they're the perfect example of grind.
Yeah,
they never stopped.
Never.
Like we toured with them a lot. They toured with the band before I joined.
Mm-hmm.
When I joined, we did at least 2 together, I think. The first one I ever did was with them once I joined from a Second Story Window. And then, so I like put that in perspective of like all the things I've done since, and moving away and then coming back, and they never quit. Obviously they had member changes, but like Vincent's been there the entire fucking time.
It's mind blowing. They came through. So I'm in Southwest Missouri, and they came through our area when they were on tour, I think with Lamb of God. And they had an off date, so they did a show nearby, because obviously this is a small market, and headlined. And Griffin, their bass player, who we knew from when he played in a band called Too Pure to Die, way back when. And so we've kind of kept in touch forever, and I hit him up, and I brought my oldest son with me. And it's like packed. And I'm like in a town that I'm not even from, that I just moved to, in this small market, and they're like all these people to come see these guys that have been doing it for so long, and they crush it. And I talked to Griffin for a lot. We have so many funny stories from dates that we did way back when, but it was just funny to reminisce with him and see that stuff. And then I continuously see things about Bring Me the Horizon, which, you know, they're the way that they play music now is not something that I gravitate towards, but they're like monstrous. And we did their first full US tour, you know, when we were all like 18, 19, 20, and they're like winning like huge awards over in the UK and stuff, and doing arenas. I'm like, what is happening? I'm like,
their rise is absolutely insane. And I still I would never generally listen to that kind of stuff either, the way they've changed, but for some reason when they do it, I do like it. And I love the last record, and it always feels like everyone is like 5 years behind them doing whatever they did on their, they're such trailblazers as far as like metal and shit. But I remember you told that story of them like on mushrooms in the back of your RV or whatever. I think when they were watching, what were they watching?
The way I remember it is we were, I call it the bus. We toured in like this big RV thing that we kind of gutted, and we were on that. We thought we were awesome. We had this huge vehicle to tour in. Now we were finally out of like that captain's chair style van, and we finally could like lay totally flat somewhere and sleep, and we thought we had made it. And we're on this tour with them. I guess they took mushrooms. I don't know who all was in the back doing this, but all I know is I walk in and Pink Floyd, The Wall is on. It's something
That's
Pink
what
Floyd,
it was.
And they are like amazed. They had never seen this before, and it's the craziest thing. It was so funny. Like it was like childlike, and they were laying on the floor under blankets, like giggling. And it was the funniest thing. I reached out to the guitar player lead not long ago, and he wrote me back, and he was like, yeah, we were reminiscing on some of the same stuff from back then. And kudos to them. They if you can do your own thing, it doesn't matter. You keep writing what you want to write, and that's been the mantra forever. So
that's the difference between them and like Acacia Strain. Their sound has grown, but in general they've stuck to the same kind of formula for them, being heavy as fuck, unrelenting, and that grind has kept them going this whole time. And obviously they're killing it and shit, but then Bring Me the Horizon changes their sound and so much every album, and that's put them into pop star almost status, having they've had so many guest appearances on with pop stars and shit on their albums or singles and stuff. So, but both ways can work. Acacia Strain is they stay true to their sound. They have a very dedicated fan base, and they can sell out places, but you're only going to get so far with that sound, obviously.
I think that they both, if we're just talking about these two individually, I think they're both great examples of bands that were around when I was involved in touring and playing live music that are still doing it and doing what they want. I do think, as far as if we're just talking about a Casey strain though, for like a model sound, if you're talking about a genre and mainstays, like they're an easy one for me to point to because I feel like they created some of that world that there's.
Oh, for sure. Everybody
formal.
rips them now.
There's so many, look-alike bands, sound-alike bands that copy off of that. And that's why it's hard for me with a lot of new music. I talk to the guys about this all the time. Like, I don't listen to a lot of heavy music because I feel like a lot of it is repetitive, and that's okay. It's just there's bands that I'm like, if I think of like, oh, that sounds like this, I just go back to listen to that original band that makes sense to me when I think about that sound. But that's also could be like, oh, you're just an old head talking trash about.
Yeah, but it's true though. I mean, to be fair, I do not seek out new music like I used to. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure there's lots of great bands out there, but when stuff does come across, I'm just like, but I can go listen to them, like the band who like originated, like I am not hearing anything that's like blowing my mind. They're all like, it's all great. It's heavy. It's cool. They're good at their instruments, but like, it just, something's not, maybe it's cause I'm old too. Like, but I don't hear a lot of new bands that go, holy fucking shit anymore.
I'm with you. And I think I had a conversation with a buddy of mine. So for example, I didn't even talk to you about Converge dropping their new single. And I don't know if you have a chance to listen to it at all yet.
Oh, I did. Yeah. It's fucking sick.
Yeah. And my buddy was kind of saying like, yeah, it sounds like maybe it's not as good as the old stuff, or maybe his voice is, kind of shot. I'm like, well, I would say, I love the new track and I'm excited to hear the whole record. I'm, have always loved Converge, and obviously for a lot of us, they're a huge, top 5 band for the most of us, of somebody that we look up to as far as like a group of artists that create, aggressive, heavy music.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to keep youthful energy of when you heard it at that moment when you were youthful. It's hard as you get older. I listened to their when they did an interview, I think it was Audio Tree, where they did like a handful of live songs, and then
yeah, that was great.
And Jake and Kurt were being interviewed on art and creativity and trying to write and put out a lot of these songs and stuff. And it was really, they're just doing what they love, and it's easy for them to kind of pump this stuff out. But I still think it's very hard to recreate that kind of youthfulness that comes with, being young and raw and just ripping something out the gate. And a lot of people feed on that, but that's part of the youthful energy of making music and why it was so impactful in our youth. And then as you age, you're still kind of looking for that thing that kind of scratches that itch. And I still think they're there, and I'm glad they're still writing music. And I think that's why we all go back to old stuff though. And I think that's why, I don't know, for me personally, it's like expand my musical taste horizon, I guess, and reaching for a lot of other styles just to open my brain to that kind of world a little bit differently. And I rely on a lot of others to give me artists, and then I find some of my own, but it's tough. It's tough finding something new, but I appreciate everybody that can put something out and share their art. It's tough to do and actually get it out there.
Yeah. And Converge, especially, they have such a weird sound, like a unique sound that's all their own. And you can hear people like borrow from it or inspired, but you never heard a band that's like, oh, they sound just like Converge, or they're a Converge ripoff. Mm-hmm. I've never heard anyone specifically even nail the ripoff version. So I'm always interested in what they'll do next. Like Kurt's gets hard, the shit he comes up with, it's so weird. They've always been heavy, a little bit of hardcore. It's not quite metal, like I don't know what it is. It's just weird, heavy, artsy music. And I think that's why they stand out, and they've never given up either. And they had the same guys in the band for so long.
It's very interesting. They're all their kind of own unique artists individually, and which is kind of cool because you know who the players are. Where some bands you're like, oh, I didn't know you played. I didn't know the name of their bass player, and you're like, oh, that's Nate from Converge, because you know these guys because they've all bring a very specific thing to the band. I don't know. I find it cool, and those are some of in the world of aggressive heavy music. You know, I'm glad I still have those things coming. I wish I could contribute that in my own way, in my own musical endeavors, but you know, we'll see. And otherwise, we just keep listening to the OGs pump out awesome stuff for us and make us famous.
We're lucky so many of them are still around.
Yeah, honestly.
Do you guys have any like loose out there plans for the future that you want to try something when everyone's ready, or is it just kind of like on hiatus for now?
I think it's just kind of on the back burner for right now. It's really hard to force stuff. And I don't think they would mind me saying that I'm usually the one that's lighting the fire under their ass. And it's hard when I don't live near them. And I mean that in the most respectful way. It's just hard. It's hard when I'm not there, and everybody's lives are so vastly different. Patrick and I talk about it quite a bit. We do have a lot of material that is kind of just sitting around that we'd like to finish. I think our goal was like, man, it would be awesome if we could put out, you know, even an EP, a handful of songs that like is like the culmination of where like we started to now. It's like this final kind of complete product, but then you're putting like a stamp that it's final. And I don't like being like, man, these are my brothers, man. Like you can write music when you're 50 years old and still scream in a mic and riff or whatever you want to do. So we'll see. I really got inspired by doing the feature on the See You Next Tuesday quad split, I guess you'd call it, that they did, Asymmetrics, that I did some guest vocals on with Fox. And that really scratched the itch for me because I was at his house. We were up in Michigan, and I'd been up there a couple times and over the period of the summer, and went up there. He didn't really have a lot of lyrical content, and I had been like, man, I've been writing for a while. I've got a lot of ideas. So we sat there and churned out and made it kind of fit what his goal was, and used a lot of my content and my style based on what they were already had musically. And it was awesome. And I don't know, I still talk to them all the time. I try to reach out. Like I told you, man, I try to connect with everybody every so often because it's very special to me. But I don't know. I'd like to be a part of something and be able to contribute something artistically, creatively in the musical world, whatever that is. I haven't had anybody reach out to me to be like, man, I want you to do this project. I wouldn't be opposed. It's like one of those things like, man, if anybody needs that, I would totally jump on. It's just one of those things like I'd love to do. At the end of the day, I feel like the nights like these guys and what we created, I would still love to take another step, another whack at it in the studio and try to finish something else. So we'll see. Right now it's kind of hiatus-y.
Yeah. Well, whenever time allows, I'd love to do something with you.
Oh man.
Yeah. Even if it's just a couple songs or something, dude.
I'd love
you
it.
have a killer voice, and it would be an exercise for me writing in another direction I haven't tried yet. So that would be cool.
Man, I'm all about it. Yeah, please keep me in mind. I spend a little bit of my time kind of probably daydreaming too much about ideas and stuff. And it's like, I used to play guitar, and then when we were on tour, I sold all my stuff, and now I'm 38 years old, and I'm like, do I need to buy gear again just so I can like write and like get some of these ideas out? And then you're like, oh, I got to spend money and do this. Like,
dude, but now though, if you just get a guitar, that's all you need, because everything else, even if you just want to do demos and not a final product, you could do everything on a laptop.
You're right.
And you could learn, even if the drums sound like shit, you could still get your ideas down, simple drum programs in Logic, like I didn't know anything when I started,
Yeah,
and
you told me that.
Lois, our single, yeah, it was like the first thing I ever put out that was like an actual finished
It
mix
sounds
and master
good.
thing that I did. Thank you. I obsessed over it for weeks and weeks, and I was like, this has to be perfect, you know. But like, I think I got it to where I want it. We wanted it to be, you know, to sound good, but still have that gritty feel to it, especially going the heavier direction with Sean being back and all that. But I learned a lot just fucking around for many years doing what I was talking about, just demoing songs that I knew would never be a finished version. But you also get better at writing
Yeah.
because you can sit there, lay out like that whole verse, chorus idea, whatever you have, and then you can take your hands off it and listen to it right away. And you go, oh, that doesn't quite work. And you might not notice it in a room with this, everyone's talking and you're trying to jam together. So I became a much better songwriter just laying things out and going, how can I make that connect back to that at the end of the song and take a piece of this and move it over here? And then you can chop things up and hear it right away.
That's a good idea.
And so
I've toyed with it. I've toyed with it.
all you need is like an interface and a fucking cable and a guitar and just use Logic or even fucking GarageBand. It's the same thing minus like some extra shit. So if that could get the juices flowing, you know, maybe you get some ideas down.
I might have to do it, man. But if you want to work on anything, we'll talk later. But that sounds good. But
yeah, I would love to. I've always loved your voice. I think we'd be on the same page with a lot of things. And
sweet.
Like I got my shit going on with Mike. I think we want to at least try to do another EP this year, and we'll see if we play live and stuff. But like after so long of doing nothing musically, like we talked about before, and then getting back together with the band, I was like, I don't think I ever want to not write music again and have that out of my life. So whenever we get to it, like, it's like we can, you know, I can always sit down and just let me put on a demo and, you know, send it over to Billy and see, you know
where to find me, man. It's now I was thinking about when you asked me to kind of jump on this, I started spinning on things that I would want to talk about. Not that it's forced, but since we're on the topic of music, I was thinking of releases this year that you and I both like, that stuff that we have talked about that you were stoked on. We talked about that Converge single, but I think about full records. We haven't touched on your on the Deftones release, man.
I was going to bring that up. What are your thoughts on it?
So, first, I have to listen to everything at least a few times through, and I like it, man. I thought at first that I felt a little bit like it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I still miss some of the, I don't know, I wanted a little bit more like heaviness in some of the parts. But overall, man, like and then having heard the record and then seeing some of the live performances that they have like clipped on the internet. I mean, dude, I don't know how they do it. And I don't even know how they write some of that stuff. And they're not all living together in the same space, and they are crushing. And after they weren't non-existent, but I guess with, you know, short clip media on social media and stuff and people utilizing some of their old tracks, now they're just like humongous again. So, I mean,
they're bigger than they've ever been.
I was pleased with it, man. I really didn't have a lot of complaints. I liked the majority of the songwriting. I think I don't ever want to say there's skippable tracks because it's all what people create, and that's not nice. But I feel like some stand out more than others. I thought it was a strong record.
It took me a few times too, because like Deftones are a very important band to me. They always have been, probably the biggest influence on me. So I have what I want up here, and then you get what you get, and then you got to find a way to meet that and go, well, you're not in the band. You can't tell them what to do. So I too always want a little more energy, a little more heaviness out of them. Not saying go back to fucking, you know, Around the Fur.
Yeah.
That was like lightning in a bottle. But I would love some essence of that in their current sound, just to like a little more edge to it. I feel like I would like a little more complexity in the songwriting. Sure. It feels like a little too simple. Like I forget which song the title is right now, but I think it was one of the singles, and it's just kind of a driving beat. And the chorus is super great. The verse has a lot of energy, and then they go into this bridge, and it's like kind of drops down to one of their like digital type things, and it's like a cool break. And I'm like, oh, something sick is coming. And they just go back in the chorus for like the third time, and I'm like, I wanted like one of those sick like Beware. Remember Beware from Saturday Night Red?
Mm-hmm.
Like, give me one of those heavy Stephen Carpenter riffs, and it just felt like they have their formula. They're sticking to it.
Yes.
It's working. It is good. But I would like, I don't know. I don't want to say they're phoning it in because they're not. Like
they just have their algorithm, man. Like they know how to write that very specific style, and they're very good at it. I will say also, I think that's one of the other things I was talking about. I can't remember who it was with. It might have been Patrick. We both love Abe Cunningham, and his drumming forever has been like, he is a very specific sound to his drumming. And I think that's kind of what I felt was missing a little bit. Like it wasn't as Abe-y. If
that's what Nick said too.
If you get what
the
I'm
drummer
saying.
Yeah.
It was almost like it was toned down a little bit. And maybe that's a production thing, and maybe someone is guiding them in a certain way. I don't know. But those are my only two critiques of a very accomplished band that's done more than I could ever imagine.
So
no,
I will always be interested in everything they do, no matter what. Like I can say I hated Gore. I didn't like that one at all.
I think I remember us talking about that.
But otherwise, like I just feel like post Diamond Eyes, they found this groove, and they've been in that groove the whole time since. But every other record felt so different to me, and I was just hoping for something different. It doesn't have to be heavy. If it was like, oh, let's go back to more like a White Pony thing, that would be amazing. Like. I was just hoping for something a little different, and all these songs are good, but they sound like they could have been on any of the last 5 records too. But
I'm with you.
I don't know. That's just me being picky as like a huge fan.
I'm with you. So I was thinking about that, and I was trying to think of any new interesting records this year that I really enjoyed that were heavy, since we're on Riff Tacos, but I go back, and I think I've listened to majority of stuff has been like, I'm wearing a Steely Dan shirt. I love Steely Dan. I've been like, I'm obsessed about that music. And then if I'm in the gym, I need something to scratch that itch. But Patrick put me on, there's a band out of Texas called Tribal Gaze, and they've been a heavy band that's younger, that I was like kind of made me stop a little bit and listen, because I feel like they've been standoutish to me this year. And then probably
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, it's really good. And then probably Catharsis out of North Carolina. They were a band that I was exposed to way early on, probably when I was a senior in high school. They didn't put out a record for 26 years. It was the first time they put out a record in that long.
Wow.
They're very, they're like a hardcore band, but not traditional hardcore. They're like a hardcore punk band, but very unique sounding style to them, and worth a listen to. And man, it's been, as far as heavy bands, I mean, I guess what I had to say, I was like, I haven't really reached to a lot of that stuff. And musically, I mean, I'm kind of dry, and that might just be the year. I
feel the same way. On a non-metal front, do you know Eka Vandal?
No.
She's on tour with Limp Bizkit right now.
Interesting. Never heard her.
I thought she just popped in my feed on Instagram one day, and to me, she is one of those people right away where I'm like, she's got the artistic mind where everything, she's thinking of everything, like the visuals, the look, the whatever, like for a song, like, and then I saw her, she put out a new music video. I forget what the song is called. But it's really good, and it's like, I don't even know what I guess it's rock, kind of like poppy punk stuff, but like usually that stuff, like when something hits me, it's like, okay, this is really a good version of that. It's not really what I listen to, but I would say if you're into anything like that, check it out, at least for like the artistic nature. The music video is really weird and cool. It's just like her and the drummer the whole time. She's got a different outfit on in every scene, and like the settings are really neat. I don't know, just a weird guitar riff too. Like it's cool.
I mean, whatever breaks up the monotony of the regular stuff for me is like, and it's something that's a little bit more interesting, and you know, I really rely on my buddies, and then my buddy Dan Drinkard that's down in Birmingham, who runs Seasick Records. They're a brick and mortar record store, but they also help put out our stuff on vinyl. And so he does some kind of these very special, like individually picked releases, archival releases, if you will. But he's always got great taste. A bunch of my buddies have really good taste. I kind of rely on them. And I mean, some random jazz stuff that he put me on called Okonski. I don't know how you're saying that right, but it's beautiful. And it's something that, like, I really get drawn to more of that style, and then really getting into like the ambient world again. And I came from that. That's something that was very special to me early on in my musical journey of like listening, and anything like that is kind of what I've been drawn to lately. And Fox, putting me on a lot of electronic stuff. And then, you go back to your Portishead or, Massive Attack, kind of mainstays and stuff. But, I mean,
I've always loved ambient stuff, instrumental stuff too. Like,
yeah.
Russian Circles is always a big one.
Oh man.
For me.
Yeah. It's that type of kind of, what do you call that? Kind of like this ambient post-rock, progressive rock. I don't even know.
And then they'll go into these massive heavy riffs too.
Yeah. That's
like Sigur Rós. I used to go to sleep to all the time. Godspeed You Black Emperor.
Yeah. Those are two of my favorites, man. And like that stuff it still remains so influential to me when I think about music and that I like and would love to be a part of. And they are way too smart for me. And I don't even know how they compose the majority of this stuff.
Yeah, that's a whole nother world.
Oh my gosh, man. And
I always wanted to play with that stuff though. And like, let me get a keyboard and plug it in and just start messing around and see like what vibes come out.
Oh,
my cat is shaking the entire desk by scratching his face.
Yeah, it's I don't know, man. I've tried to find a few different things. There's an artist called Nourished by Time. It's kind of more R&B, but it's very eclectic sounding. Anything kind of weird, it's just to like almost like to cleanse your palate of some of the stuff that you've just been overwhelmed with. But I think overall, I've been a little dry this year. That's probably on me from being too focused on the kiddos and work and everything else that kind of goes on with life. But
yeah, I mean, same here. I had my head down in the podcast, and that was about it from like when Fastwa took our hiatus up until I did this EP. And like, I just like poured everything into that because we kind of like just hit that wall out of nowhere. It was like, all right, we got to cancel the summer shows. Everything's on hold. So we're in the same boat. Just like everything's just set to the back right now.
What's going on? Any updates on that stuff? Because I guess Will has a new project out. He's doing his thing out in North Carolina. It sounds like Sean's got various projects that I kind of like.
Yeah, Sean's got a record coming out January 9th, I think. Calm and Secure.
Cool.
And then Will's, I don't know when Will's is coming out, but his shit's really cool too. Like, it's a side of him I've never heard. Very melodic,
nice.
Heavy. With his buddy down there, I forget his name. Toby, is it? But they made some really cool shit. Like that was one thing that he sent me like a few demo tracks. I was like, wow, dude, this is like really impressive. Like it's not a side of you I've ever heard, and it sounds unique. A little bit of Deftones in there, a little Glassjaw.
Nice.
So I'm stoked for whenever they finish that. I feel like they sounded good enough to be like finished tracks to me, but I guess they're gonna actually go redo everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I talked to Joe, and he sounded like he's been busy with family and work and probably I would seemingly overwhelmed because he's very busy. And Nick's got his barbecue business, right? And then Will's got jujitsu.
Rob, yeah.
Yeah, Rob. Will's up there. Sorry, Will and Rob. I didn't mean to confuse you. I'm still thinking about Will sounding like Glassjaw.
Yeah, it surprised me. I was like, holy shit, dude. And it sounds good. It doesn't sound like him impersonating or anything. Like, I was just like, wow, that was the first thing that came to mind.
I'm going to have to actually listen.
It's sick.
And then Rob with his jujitsu stuff. Yeah, you guys are really busy. So it sounds like that's kind of on hold as well.
Yeah, I was really bummed because like we were planning to get out the EP in the summer, and it was going to be like a I think four tracks plus Lois, so 5 total with that song included. And then everything just got kind of boom, we're halted. I don't know what's going on. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to go 100% of the podcast. And then I just didn't come up for air for I don't know how many months. And then when I finally did, I was like, I'm kind of fucking miserable. So that's why I'm like, I'm going to take a break and just work on this music. And that made me feel really good. And working with Mike, and it was just refreshing to do some like dirty rock and roll.
Hey man,
And
sometimes that's all you need.
yeah.
Is there you guys got any plans to do anything? And then I'll leave it alone. I'm always curious about my buddies and what they're doing.
From your second story window?
Yeah.
No, not at the moment.
Okay. So we are in the same boat. We are identical.
Yeah, it's just kind of like we stopped. We announced the summer shows were canceled, and then it was just kind of like, well, I don't know. So that's where we are.
As far as the podcast stuff, and I just wanted to touch on this again because I was curious about, because we had texted about metrics, and because you can see all this stuff as far as growth, and then obviously like people rating and doing this stuff and reposting this, but on platforms rating or commenting on certain things increases visibility and on platforms and in algorithms of what they show you. I have no idea how it works. And I'm like, I think about this and all the cool guests that you had on and the trajectory. If you saw in the numbers, in the data, if it proved to be worthwhile to continuing beating the shit out of yourself to keep doing this, or if it's like, I could probably come back and I would still have a similar fan base and can continue growth if I wanted.
That's a great question. And yeah, that was part of it, because like I do this for work. And so I think I got in that mode of like, this is like a client, like I got to look at the numbers, and if it's not growing this way, then I got to do this better and that and that. And I was like, I'm not getting paid to do this. Like what, like and again, yeah, it's supposed to be fun. So I had to like just take a step back, and like, that's what's making me miserable, is obsessing over the numbers and the subscribers. And I got in work mode with it. Yeah. So I had to go, let me just have fucking conversations with whoever I want, whenever I want, about whatever I want, and not worry about, it's got to be a good show for this audience or hit the right thing with this algorithm, because you can have the right thumbnails and the titles and whatever. And yeah, sometimes, and to an extent, it does help. But overall, it's like, if your shit's good, it will get out there. And I had to stop treating it like a product and just go, I'm just going to hang out with whoever I want to and take it or leave it, and stop being so obsessive about it. Because especially with music podcasts, that's another thing. Like, when I was doing research on what podcasts do well, and like advertisers have tiers of what they'll pay for ads. And so if you're in like finance or like self-help type stuff, advertisers will pay more to get their ads in your videos. Music is at the very fucking bottom.
Oh shit.
So like, if you're going into business as a podcaster to like make money, don't do a music podcast. Basically, you need to get, because like even some of the big ones, like like, obviously some make money, but there's a lot that come from like record labels and shit that like no one fucking listens to, even though there's like big artists on it and there's a lot of money behind it. But that's also probably because podcasts are supposed to be this with normal people, and when it's all overproduced and whatever, it kind of feels like a show. Yeah. And I think people rather hear people do what we're doing.
I mean, I hope so, because I get, like I can appreciate the people that are experts in their field having their podcast and talking about very specific things that they can speak to as an expert. And I get that. And that's a very specific thing, right? Like, I mean, I think Huberman is one of the main ones, the neuroscientist out at Stanford, who really, I think his thing is he dumbs down data and science for the regular person to understand, which I think is phenomenal. And I love that.
Yeah, he's great.
I don't listen to him as much anymore as I probably should. And I've probably delved too much.
I haven't seen him in my feed lately. He's still going, right?
I think so. I have turned I have a problem, and I have gotten way too dark and turned even more so into the true crime world. And I am so desensitized to everything now, and also highly paranoid about everything, because you hear all this horrible shit Like,
Yeah, that's why I stay away from that stuff. My mind is already fucked
oh
enough. And then,
God, man,
yeah.
it gets so crazy. But and then you've got like really insightful ones like Sam Harris, or like a Prof G who does finance stuff, and they all kind of dabble in the politics and stuff. And that's a world that I can't really. I get so I'm gonna get a headache if I have to listen to this anymore.
Yeah.
So, but no, hopefully people appreciate just the conversation, or if it's like people from that world and just come listening to them have dialogue. So I get what you're going for. I was just curious if that was a part of the decision making, but I'm like you, it would make me insane to have to treat it.
Yeah. And I think too, like, it's like, obviously there's an audience for this podcast that knows our bands and the guests I have on their bands. And, as far as like doing well in that world, it's like there's a very low ceiling for treating this as a business. Like, if all those people are stoked, awesome. But if I'm killing myself and it's not going to grow beyond that, then it's like, what's the point? Just have fun and do it once in a while. So I had to go, okay, it can just be that, which is fun and that's cool. Or if I do want it to become like a part-time job and grow it and like, whatever, then I have to expand a little bit. And I still don't know really what that means. But I thought about it like Rogan, who's like the GOAT, the biggest podcast in the world.
Absolutely.
So if you look at his podcast on Spotify, it's labeled as a comedy podcast, which it is not at all. So he'll have on anyone from any neck of the woods. One episode will be him and his, buddies just doing beer bongs, and then the next one he'll have a physicist on, and the next one will have a guy about aliens on, and maybe he just hit that because he was so early and he's like great at conversation. But I was like, I could just do the same fucking thing in my world how I want to do it, and it's like, who cares if the label says music on it? We can always talk about music, but I'd rather get into other things people are interested in, rather than just, like I said, like the more interviewee, like, tell me about the new record. How did you get started playing guitar? It's like,
I know
that's fun, but it gets really old for me really quick. And then I fucking hate listening to myself. And I'm like, I just want to talk to people and have a good time. And why can't I just do my own version of that? And who cares what the label is or what it's got to be, where I have to stay in my niche and like listen to all the dumb rules people have about your template's got to be like this. You got to release on the same day every week. And it's like, I did that for 43 episodes. I got 1,500 subscribers. Yeah. So it doesn't matter if you do everything right. It's like, if it's good, it'll get out there. And that's what I think it was tainting it, is it was going to not be genuine and good if I was treating it like a job and I wasn't having fun. So I had to just let go of all that shit and go, I'll do the thumbnails in 2 seconds. They'll still look good, but like, I'm not going to spend all this time making it look super cool and having some live shot of the guy, like, it was just hours and hours of all these little details that don't really matter in the end.
I agree with you, man. And I think that's the right. I mean, I don't know how to do this stuff, but I think if as like normal,
I don't either.
I think as far as like normal human beings having conversation, and in the episodes that I've listened to every single one of yours, I get it. You're asking, but you're talking to. I think it's cool if you expand, even if it's music can be the default. You can have somebody with like a totally different background of something that is like of interest to you, that they have something that they're an expert on, they can speak to. We can still talk music. What are you into? Are you?
Yeah. Like, what's the guy who's not associated with music at all listen to? That's more interesting.
Exactly.
Than just like, tell me when you got your first guitar.
Because a lot of us are all the same age. And so when we start talking about, we probably all got our guitar at the same age. We're in this genre. We probably dabbled in the same bands. And had a same origin story, if you will. And I think what it can make, like, I think you're on the right track with it. It's just the unique backstories to some of these people and what they're, doing.
And it was funny. Some of the best moments didn't come from like all of my prep or like, listening to all their records to be like, make sure I know this record or the title, what's this called, when it came out. You're trying to be a professional, but that also kind of taints the genuine. Just like, let the conversation flow. And then sometimes we get on something, and that section of the podcast that's like an hour in is better than what you were trying to plan and make it go a certain direction from the beginning.
No, I'm with you, which brings me to my next point, because I was going to bring this. I was watching the clock and I was like, we're getting close to an hour, and I wanted to come full circle with you on our sleep paralysis paranormal. 'Cause you only had one other guy that you talked about the paranormal stuff with, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, who was that?
He played in a band, like a smaller band, and he has a paranormal podcast.
Oh yeah, who is that?
You'll have to look.
I
can see his face.
Oh, you're talking about Shane?
Yeah.
Yeah. The Inverted World Live. I love that.
And so any more episodes of you personally with the demon?
No. I surprisingly, which means I'm due, because usually it's like once a year.
I don't know.
But there has been nothing.
We've been talking about it. So maybe like some of the...
Maybe getting it out, yeah.
You're approaching it, and now it's like, fuck, I can't get him anymore because he's aware.
Yeah, and like, thank you too for talking to. Was it your friend at work or?
Yeah, so the connection, for I guess anybody listening that isn't aware of kind of the backstory, we had talked a lot about your sleep paralysis problems that spanned years, where you'd have huge gaps of time, and it was the same ominous figure, and you would hear the high frequency buzzing in your ear. Right. And it didn't really matter where you were. And we were trying to pinpoint, off podcast about, like, I was asking you a lot of clinical questions about kind of your medical history and certain things that might be triggered to this. And there's a lot of different stuff. So by trade, I am a nurse practitioner. I don't practice medicine anymore, but I worked mostly in neuroscience, and first bulk of time was neurosurgery, and where we did brain and spine surgery and some peripheral nerve, it doesn't matter. But then I did some general neurology, which is a separate, I kind of went from mechanic to more medicine, right? And a former colleague of mine, I won't name her name, but she's a general neurologist that specializes in sleep medicine. That's a branch of neurology. And so she kind of has a lot of insight in, whether it's, REM sleep disturbances to sleep apnea, various things like that, to rule out other causes of sleep issues that patients might have. So she was really insightful about it. And that's kind of where I got a lot of the information from. And then kind of funny enough, when you and I were kind of texting last week, so I have my shoulder surgery and I'm not doing anything, right? Like, I can't do shit. I'm not supposed to do anything, and it's driving me crazy. And my kids go out of town right after the holidays after my surgery, so I've got a lot of time here. So my girlfriend and I are like, we need something to watch. And I had pushed this series out of my mind, because I was like, I'm not watching Stranger Things. I'm like, what is Stranger Things, man? I don't watch sci-fi. I'm trying to watch something else. And I kind of allowed it. I don't know what your take is on the show, and people might like be balking at me even discussing this, but
I'm a big fan of it.
Okay. So I thought it was going to be stupid. I was like, I'm not watching. This thing's been on. I've been seeing ads on Netflix forever about this shit. I was like, I'm not watching this crap. Like, what is Stranger Things? So I'd watched a few things over the, from Thanksgiving to now. And I think what allowed me to consider it was I watched the Welcome to Derry It series.
Oh, I heard that was great. I haven't seen it.
It's awesome. It's fucked up. Is
that like a prequel?
It's the prequel to the It 1 and 2, where it's like the other kids. You'll see the connections to it. First episode, this lady gives birth, and you see this It demon pop out of her hoo-ha. And you're like, what the fuck is this? And I was sold. I'm like, this is going to be messed up. I was like, sign me up. I'll watch. And I really enjoyed it. But it's got them as the kids kind of Goonie-esque stuff. We're talking about Welcome to Derry. And I was like, man, I might give Stranger Things a try. Maybe it's cool. Maybe it's supposed to be 80s. And so we started it, and I was like, man, this is awesome. This is like prime nostalgia, late 80s. And I still feel like they pull in some early 90s stuff into it, even though it's mostly in the 80s. But
yeah, there's so many references to all kinds of movies.
It's been great. And I think you can tear it apart with theory, with one season to the next, and I'm sure it's been hell for people that have watched it from the beginning because there's like years in between releases, and I've like binged all of this stuff. But the point I'm making about you, so I'm watching them like the Will character where he starts tweaking when the guy's in his mind. I'm like, oh my God, this is like sleep paralysis, man. I'm like,
Yeah.
this could be Paul. He's in his bed. He thinks he's awake, but Vecna's in his brain. And you're laying. That's why when I asked you if you had a camera watching you, because you're probably there rolling your eyes behind your eyelids.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, you asked me that. I was like, my first thought was like, I'm terrified of seeing that because I don't know, because I feel like you ever seen The Fourth Kind?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like something like I feel like I would be, looks like I'm sleeping, and then I start to fight, and that fight I'm trying to move has to look so creepy.
Oh, I imagine it as you're somebody whose mind is taken over by Mind Flayer, Vecna, whatever, and your eyes are rapidly moving, and you're laying there and you're sweating, and I'm like, dude, this is sleep paralysis. So then I
didn't even think about that when I watched it. That's funny.
I start going down this like, and then you're in a memory and you think you're awake, but you're not. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the perfect analogy for Paul's sleep paralysis. But then I went down this rabbit hole and started reading some more and got way too in depth on sleep paralysis and human nature as kind of a connected mind. That's why most people report seeing the same thing, because it goes primal into your into the
lizard
basic,
brain.
Yeah, of what's, and that's why most people see the same thing. But man, I have spent more time than I thought I ever would about sleep paralysis and going into that. But man, there's a ton of science behind it. So my former colleague, she's has seen it a bunch. I think yours was pretty interesting to her. That's why she actually talked to me about it, because yours has spanned a lot of time, and there's nothing very specific that's like an aha moment of like, oh, there's a trigger. Oh, he has this medical issue. Or he has this insane trauma from way back. It's like there's nothing that really points to it, which still, I think you could be the devil's advocate and be like, but what if it's not that simple? What if it's something else? And then you kind of freak yourself out and get a little spooky. So
yeah. Well, the older I get, the more I'm like, not quite sure we know everything. When I was younger, I was very much like atheists. Like, I know there's nothing else, and we just go in the ground and that's it, and ghosts aren't real and this and that. And the older you get and the more weird kind of coincidences happen, and like I talk about this with my girlfriend all the time, and like she's like some percent psychic for sure. Like there's way too many weird experiences over the years where she thinks about something or says something, then it happens right after, and she'll like tell me another one, and she doesn't like it. She'll be like, I don't like this at all. Yeah. But like, and then like, your parents passing away, and like when, you just go through so many things, and it's like, I don't know, you start to question like, well, what is really going on here? And then your mind opens up a little bit. It's like, I haven't become religious or anything, but I'm less strict to like, oh, I have it all figured out.
Oh man, I'm with you. I think it's too hard. I think the angsty former versions of ourselves, maybe it was easier to build up barriers and walls to thinking about something else. And I don't think there's anything wrong with spirituality. I won't stay on the topic too long, but I find myself longing for that a little bit. I grew up in a very strict Catholic household, and I think that's kind of what pushed me away from religion as a like structured environment. Theology and learning about various world religions, as corny as that might sound, is very interesting to me. I think they all have come back to the basics. But to your point, I think a lot of that open-mindedness towards something else, you're drawn to it because after as much life as you do live, you see a little bit more, and it it's like there's got to be something. But
I also want it to be real.
yeah,
Like I really do. Like
yeah,
I want there to be something more interesting than just like we're just like flesh and bones and we go in the dirt and that's it.
with
Like that sucks.
meat suits full with chemicals. You know, that was one of the things that bummed me out about, you know, working in medicine, is that, you know, when you study the brain, like a lot of our, and everything that makes us up on the surface of what is studied, you know, at the basic way I could put it is like, I mean, it's all chemical, you know,
Yeah.
emotions, you know, we can control emotions with medicine, you know, based on, you know, neurotransmitters in our brain and stuff like that. But I don't want to just think it's, you know, we're meat sacks filled with chemicals and that's it. But I think kind of big picture on the sleep paralysis or anything kind of else that's kind of very funky with how our minds work. It's something that is very interesting to me. And you start thinking of
Yeah.
other paranormal experiences and stuff. And I thought about stuff from my youth and other hilarious stories and freaky stuff that has happened. And it made me think about you and other experiences. I don't remember if you talked with Shane about other experiences that you've had outside of sleep paralysis.
I can't remember. He was one of the early ones too, like episode 5 or
Well,
something.
I mean, like, have you had other instances outside of just the sleep paralysis moments where you're like, I saw this or I experienced this and this was my brain could not interpret it type of thing?
I know there's something that happened that I can't remember off the top of my head right now. I mean, a few times you think you see UFOs and shit like that. There's we used to go ghost hunting a lot when we were like teenagers and shit and break into houses and like all that. Like not like we're going in with fucking gear and shit,
Yeah.
but we would just like going to
Who are
spooky shit.
you?
When you grow up in a small town with nothing going on, it's a lot like Stranger Things.
Mhm.
There's like the creepy house down the block, or like, you know, there was a guy who murdered a chick in our town, and like that was all like, you know, local legend stuff. And there was like a place out there called 5 Points where 5 roads converged, and his house was right down from there.
Oh, I mean, I
And we used
remember
to
you telling the story. Yeah, that's spooky.
Yeah. So we'd go drive up to his house and like we drive our cars into the backyard so the cops wouldn't see him if they drove by. We turn off our headlights and then we go in through the back. It was just open, I think. I don't even think it was locked. And like all his shit was still in there, his clothes, like
Oh man.
like weird jars like nailed to the ceiling, screwed in, and like there's like rotten shit in them. Like there's a bunch of weird shit. So we were always into that stuff. But I never had like a specific like ghost type experience or anything. Like the sleep paralysis thing is like really the big one, because it's happened since I was 17 or 18, and like once or twice a year always shows up. It's always the same thing, and like sometimes it's scarier than others, but it's usually the same shit where I feel it coming and I freeze up and I'm fighting and I finally break free of it. So yeah, I like to I would like to see a camera on me when it happens, but that would be really creepy to watch.
Oh man, you start like talking and saying stuff like you're speaking in like another language or something.
Yeah.
Whoa. No,
I always think about.
We've done the ghost hunting stuff.
Yeah.
We did. I wish Patrick or one of the guys was here because their memories are way better than mine on stuff. But so we would go. There was an abandoned hospital. We used to call it the old VA hospital in Memphis, but I don't think that's correct. I don't think that's what it was originally. What it was, but it was on Crump in a really bad part of Memphis. And it was an old hospital. And now it's been leveled. I think there's actually a police station on that lot now, on that land, and they've built some other things around it. But back when in high school, it was this massive abandoned hospital, and they had like in the back, it was like the massive smokestack. You know, I would assume for cremation and stuff like that, and you know the obvious morgue at the bottom, and then you could break in. And so that's what we would do. And we thought it was funny because we would take people with us who had never been. And we're like, oh, yeah, we're going to show you this. And couple of us would branch off and we'd try to scare the people that were new that were visiting. But we would we went quite a few times, and I think one of the only times we got really spooked, it happened to be a homeless man who was sleeping there, and he was like, if y'all don't fuck with us, we're not gonna. He was like, we won't fuck with you. I'm like, cool. And because you got a bunch of like 17-year-old kids running around in a horrible part of Memphis. We'd been stopped by the cops before, being like, y'all are idiots, go home, what are you doing?
Yeah,
but
something bad's gonna happen.
We had some spooky moments in there too, because you're talking about like, it's like they left everything there when they closed up shop. Like as soon as it was shut down, they left patient records. We had bags of saline. You had IV kits. You had all sorts of just stuff thrown everywhere, all over the place. And it was actually quite dangerous looking back on it. But I think they had a pediatric ward. And I know we went in one time. And if my memory serves me, we went in, we heard a music box go off in an empty pediatric ward. And that was shit as hell. We had a few instances like that where you see like a shadow or something move down a corridor, and I'm sure we could get the Ghost Adventures guys down there at the time.
Yeah,
pick up all sorts of crazy shit.
I think that was one thing. I don't know the story, but it was something like that, like a shadow, something out of the corner of my eye, like one of those type things that happened. But I think it was not in a creepy place though, which kind of made it even weirder. Mm-hmm. It was like I was just at home by myself, and it's middle of the day.
Yeah, no.
And then it's like someone walks out of the bathroom, and I'm like, I know that wasn't just a peripheral fucking whatever. Like I saw somebody. It's like one of those things, but I can't remember specifically.
Speaking of so when I said Ghost Adventures, those dudes. But they have big, it's like 40 seasons of paranormal investigation.
That's amazing. It's gone that long.
The dude cracks me up. What's his name?
He's fucking hilarious.
Zach Bagans.
Zach, yeah.
And it's so like he has created this character that is like so serious but so funny, and it's like I can't not watch what's happening, even if it's so
like he'll fight a ghost.
He's like attach to me, come at me. And like demanding, like calling him out and provoking like something that it is so off the wall. So we go to Las Vegas, and so we went out there. My girlfriend and I went out there. She loves Shania Twain, and she had just finished some medical treatment. And so I was like, man, let's go out here. We went and saw her play, and I brought up, I'm like, man, the Zach Bagans Museum is here. And so she got tickets to it. Dude, I'm talking for a museum that is creepy and that's spooky. It's worth a visit. And
where is it?
It's in Vegas. And it is a spooky house that there's some murder happened there, or some kind of culty satanic shit happened there that he bought. That's a historical landmark, and he converted it into this museum where he has all of his crazy relics and stuff that he's saved over the years put into this house. And it is jam-packed full of shit. And if there's anything that's got crazy, something going on, it is in that place. And we got the special pass where you could go down to the basement where they had previously allegedly performed these satanic rituals and stuff. And it is highly uncomfortable. And they've got, anything famous, exorcist, religious, spooky, paranormal stuff based to serial killers, it's all in there. And I got a little spooked because there is, and then shout out to the band, Ed Gein. So they have an Ed Gein room, and it's kind of set up like a museum, and it's kind of like the barn where Ed would kill all of his people and skin them, right? And speaking of which, if you haven't watched the Netflix thing on that with Charlie Hunnam,
I haven't. No, I heard it was good.
It's worth a watch, man. He's a psycho, but you kind of like, I don't want to say you feel bad for him, but he just had problems. But so the museum, they have this room. It's all of his stuff, and it's set up to look like the barn where he was, right? And doing all this stuff. And they have anything that he buys, because it's like, well, how do you know it's proof? Like, how do you know it's authentic? Like, this is the stuff, right?
Right.
Like, he has a letter or some kind of bill of sale or something signed from, and can trace it. Like, this was a family member. This is so-and-so, and they write it.
Like Pawn Stars shit.
Confirming the authenticity of this item. And so he has his, basically his giant, what do you call that? It's like a big cooking pot. I don't know what you'd call it.
Like a kettle?
Yeah, a big, like a massive, just like bowl thing. There's a specific, I can't remember, I'm losing it, but it's under like plexiglass because they say it is like an active quote unquote item. And we're in there and I'm standing on the side and they've got some like an audio recording talking. And I hear something tapping behind my shoulder. And I thought it was just someone on the wall or whatever, because I was pretty close to the wall tapping behind me. And then it kind of went loud, like, and I thought it was like a speaker there, and there was nothing there. And I turned around, I was like, did somebody else hear that? And the lady behind us was like, oh, we've heard it tapping right by your head this entire time. And I was like, goosebumps up, man, freaked. It was very spooky. And I'm not gonna lie, like that was a frightening thing. And then they had the it's called a cauldron. She just texted me and says
cauldron. That's what, not a kettle.
It was a kettle. Yeah, it was his death cauldron, but where he would basically, when he would skin them, everything would kind of glop into this cauldron. So
Death Cauldron's a good death metal band name.
Death Cauldron. I like that. Yeah, spooky.
What was I going to say?
They had so much stuff, man. It freaked me out. I'm like, I'm gonna walk away with an attachment, and I'm gonna have a real sleep paralysis demon, and someone's gonna wake me up.
And like when you tell that story, it's hard for other people to get it because like, oh, you heard a sound. But like when you're in those moments and something actually happens, you feel it. You feel like the will and Stranger Things, the goosebumps on the back of your neck. You're like, it's such a simple thing. You're hearing a sound, but when that vibe shifts in the room, and you're like, "Whoo, something ain't right."
Yeah, it was strange stuff, man. But yeah, if you ever go, check it out, man. And then I
haven't been to Vegas in a while, but that would be fun.
Shout out Zach Bagans and the crew, and then shout out the real Ed Gein from Syracuse. They were a blast to tour with, and I missed that band. They were a good band.
Great dudes. They've been done for a long time, right?
They've been done for a while. I think Aaron, he played bass in their band. He's got another project going on, and same with their drummer. I don't know if their guitar players do. They were just a 3-piece, but they were, man, talk about like the early, like spastic, crazy, like shit that they would do. I mean, there was nobody.
They were OGs.
There was nobody doing it like they were. And that's one of their early LPs on vinyl is one of my prized recordings that I felt the need to get from them on that tour, and I still own it. But they are a phenomenal group. But yeah, shout out to them, man. That was but yeah, spooky stuff, man.
What was I gonna say? Something with religion. Oh, when you were saying earlier, like how kind of like all religions kind of have some of the same basic stuff, and I learned this from, what was that documentary that came out in like the early 2000s? Zeitgeist. The whole like first hour was about the history of religion and how they all kind of base off the same thing. And I think about that a lot. And like, I was super into like the show Ancient Aliens when it first came out, and it's like so cheesy and like silly, but I still like for real love that concept of like, how did all these people on different sides of the planet all kind of come up with the same general story? They're worshiping the sky. There's something there with that and it's like we have this missing link of how we got from this type of human to our current type of human. You know, we're still trying to figure that out. And he's got like the genetic engineering shit with aliens coming down, and are we some experiment? I'm really into all that stuff,
Oh man,
and that's very interesting to me.
will run rampant, brother. There's so much.
Yes. But like, what do you think of that? Because I always like, I kind of put all this together. Like, if there are aliens coming here, let's say, they're not just getting in a ship and just going down the road, because it's way too long, even if you can travel at light speed, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to do some sort of wormhole dimension stuff in order to make that make sense. Oh, like, that's the only way.
We're getting
so yeah, if you have something visiting you in the night, let's say sleep paralysis, and I have this feeling that it's like some kind of entity, whatever, I'm not thinking like, oh, cheesy ghost demon from hell. What if it's something coming through like that? But it's all kind of the same thing. Is it something from another part of the universe coming through? Are we an experiment? You know, and then the religion's all kind of based off that. But I used to think about this so much, and then you just kind of give up at a certain point, because then you keep hitting dead ends.
Dude,
but
I think it's almost an impossible thought process, because so for one, I think of as someone who grew up in a pretty strict Catholic household, and you have an understanding of Catholicism, and even at this like time right now, I still like, something about me is drawn to Catholicism, because it's OG religion. It's been around forever as far as like Christianity, right? It's
like, I was raised Catholic too. I had the same thing. I was pushed away from it.
It's an original thing. So I still like feel this kind of weird, like I'm drawn to this, because you grow up around it, man. And like, I think it's ingrained in you. And then I think that as a young person coming up, you always want to push back against something that you feel oppressed by. And that's what I chose. That I was like, I don't like this. I don't like how it's making me feel, or I feel I have this guilt or something.
Yeah. And that's too many fucking rules.
Yeah, Catholic guilt is a real thing, man. Even people that are not Catholic anymore still from their childhood have the Catholic guilt. It's just ingrained in you. And I don't think there's anything wrong with Catholicism or Christianity in general. And in fact, I still kind of subscribe to some of those thoughts a little bit. And then even when I went through a period of being agnostic, but I think it was more of just like not caring or not wanting to think about it. You're just mad. So you're like, fuck it. I don't care about any of this shit. There's no God. There's none of this. And I try, I have these conversations or thoughts with myself or others about some of this stuff, or even my own father, who grew up as an Episcopalian and then converted to Catholicism, is like, more on the journey of life and just kind of experiencing everything. I always had this thought of, maybe it's just energy. And I'm like, what is the energy? And like, there's energy with all of us. So is God a part of all of us as human beings? And there's not, I definitely don't subscribe to, there's this being in the sky that we all worship. I think a lot
just doesn't make any sense.
There's a lot of the religions, whether it's Buddha, or, Jesus, or you're Muslim or anything else. I mean, you have like these prophets that, are speaking to God or are God. It gets very confusing to me. And I'm not trying to like go off the deep end on religion, because I'm not
go ahead
by any means. But as far as like, man, your alien theory, it's like, man, I don't know. I mean, could these like aliens came here and visited us, and or there was nothing here.
People saw them as gods and angels.
Yeah, maybe the early humans saw that, or maybe we are the aliens, like a form of them, and we're like kind of this branch off species. I don't know. I'm sure they are like way better looking and more well hung than us. So like that kind of sucks.
My friend has a great theory about that too, because we do the same thing as drink all night and talk about this shit. Shout out Nick, my friend in LA. But he was like, all humans do is build shit, right? We're just like, once we got to the like industrial age, whatever, we were able to dig shit out of the ground and change metal and build things. He's like, that's all we do is dig up stuff and build stuff and create technology. Rogan talks about a lot of this too. He's like, what if like aliens came here, they changed the species of ape into a smarter version, became us, and just, we are innately have this thing where we have to just build stuff, and we're bringing up all the materials out of the earth and like up to the surface and building this technology until Rogan's addition to it is we're creating AI, and AI will be the new being, which is like the super being, the new God, whatever. So they go to a planet, they do that, they start the process, and eventually we create AI, which is like the new God or whatever, and that will have some purpose in their goals or whatever they're doing, or that they're humans from the future coming back. Yeah, there's all, you can go in any direction with it. It's insane, but
it's out of control. It's too much for me. I'm just like, man, what's our average lifespan? Like 80? I'm almost halfway there. Like,
yeah. But yeah, I used to think about it so much, and it would drive me insane because I wanted to know the answer. And now I don't care because I know I'll never have it, at least till we die. Maybe we figure something out or whatever. But yeah. I still enjoy scratching that itch and talking about it. It's fun.
I think, I get a lot of the atheist arguments and stuff, and like it's just, even if you think about, it's the end. It's the end. You came from darkness, and that's where you're going. You're not even gonna know, man. When you die, it's gonna be the same as from when.
That sounds great too.
And that's totally plausible, man. There's so much, information on and books on that kind of stuff, and even when we talk about Buddhism and that thought process and stuff, and the thought process of impermanence, right? Like that we're not, if you don't believe in like a reincarnation, or it's just the idea of impermanence and living your life the best you can to the most, because life is short, it is impermanent, we will not be here, and we will return to nothing like where we came from. But at the same time, you're like, damn, man, I kind of hope that we get to do some other shit afterwards. I mean, that would kind of just suck. Like, I don't.
Yeah, like all this was for nothing.
I always had this like kind of argument, like, I'm not dying. By the time it's my time, I hope they got some bionic shit going on, and they can just, snap this thing off, this big ass head, and plug it in somewhere else, and just keep me going, man, until I decide. Maybe I'm not.
See, I struggle with that. Like, if you have the choice to die or live forever, because then I'm like, what if we're supposed to die though? Like, because we don't know what happens on the other side of that. And then what if like you're forcing yourself to stay here, but that's not what you're supposed to do?
I know, that's where it's like the innate, your biologic ticker. Like, it's like, hey, this is.
Yeah, you die for a reason, maybe. So it's like, if we get to the point where we can figure that out, that's pretty fucking cool. But it's also weird because then you're breaking nature, unless that's supposed to be part of nature. And that's what we are, is we create this tech to change things. And then you could argue that's all part of nature, because it's just like an animal building a fucking nest, or ants building an ant farm. We build this shit and it keeps getting better and better. So I don't know. That's a tough one. That's weird.
Dude, yeah, because then you're altering something else. Man, you could go down this rabbit hole forever on, thinking about that. But you have an interest in aliens, I have realized.
Yeah, I always have.
Yeah, that's been like, I feel like
because it's like the one thing that like it has to exist.
So, man, the Stranger Things has really been like the wormhole stuff. That's been like a big thing for you.
Yeah, since season 1, I was like, they just absolutely nailed the vibe of this show in the 80s. It reminds me of my childhood a lot. Like, that was straight up me with my friends, wearing my Proton pack, riding my bike down the street. They're in Indiana, right, in the show, even though they shot it in Georgia, but it has that Midwest feel. And I'm in Ohio, which is right next door to that. So, like, everything rang home of, like, that small town, high school. Like, it felt like where I grew up a lot. So that on top of the sci-fi and the 80s vibe, I was all about it.
I was thinking of, we're talking about Um, kind of like the thought of coming from nothing and then returning to nothing. Um, so there's an author, and I guess my brother put me on to him, and it was supposed to kind of help with this existential anxiety that I had felt at the time, and I think that I still feel, and a lot of people probably can relate to. It's, just kind of those big picture after death, thoughts that can ruminate and almost freak yourself out. If you're not,
I think about it pretty much every day.
yeah. So it's just, so like, he put me on, this, kind of, he's supposed to be like the Zen Buddhist, but, for the West, like he brought Zen Buddhism to the West. Right. And this thought process of, impermanence and etc. But his name was Alan Watts. And,
oh yeah, I know him.
so he has a lot of really good books and stuff that kind of talks about some of that stuff to kind of quell and the, kind of the anxiety about a lot of that, which you can kind of drive yourself crazy. And it's like, well, yeah, what if there are fucking aliens that were here before and that's what we thought, and they're coming back and they're going to, they want us to build AI, and then they're going to just be like, all right, fuck off.
Yeah, thanks. We'll take that.
But
no, he's great. I listen to him on my walks sometimes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a ton of YouTube content with him. You got to watch out because there's a lot of AI bullshit with like a fake version of his voice, but you can tell the real ones. And you're right. It's very soothing.
We use his stuff live. Like we'll use some of his quotes. We'll pull his clips from lectures off of YouTube, and we'll use those as interludes in between certain parts of our set.
That's cool.
And it's hard to kind of pick out unless you're paying attention. It just sounds like some British dude talking, but it's him, and he's like giving these like just profound kind of statements on life, which we've always kind of come to. But I think the big book was The Wisdom of Insecurity, but it's almost like so dark where it makes you be like, oh shit, there is nothing. And you're like, I'm supposed to make you feel better. I almost feel worse.
Yeah. There's a fine line you're walking when you like dabble into this shit and you think about it. If you're interested in it, then it sticks with you. Like I think about it a lot, probably too much, but you were right. You nailed it. Like his like words, they are soothing because it's like he's not saying, oh, it's not real or what, it just makes you feel better about it, whatever the topic is. And there's a lot of stuff too about like the grind with work and trying to be successful, where it's just like nothing fucking matters. Just relax a little bit.
Dude, that's pretty much, I was just kind of pulling up some of his quotes on his quotes and ideas on death that I've always found to be interesting. And it's like on fear, suppressing the fear of death makes it all the stronger. The point is only to know beyond any shadow of a doubt that I and all other things now present will vanish. You don't die because you were never born. You had just forgotten who you are. And you're like, damn, man, you just kind of like, I get it. It's guys like that are just so smart that they're almost like just content with the end. I think that's why you and I and like others have dialogue about this, and it gets funny. We talk about aliens and all these other, conspiracy theories or concepts of religion or, the afterlife or the supernatural and stuff. But some of these guys are so centered on like, it doesn't matter,
Yeah.
And it's fine. I'm like, I don't know that I'm okay with that.
I think what helped me is just finally accepting when I got old enough, like I'll never know the answers to all this shit.
Yeah.
And you'll drive yourself insane. So it's like, it's fun to talk about it, but it doesn't drive me crazy anymore. And like, I'm not afraid of death. I don't want to die yet. I'm obviously but I'm not afraid of it like I used to be.
Yeah.
Cause it's like, you have to, everyone's done it. There are more dead people than there are alive people. And you're going to figure out everything or nothing. So we'll see.
I know, man. That's why you got to just kind keep hanging with your buddies and making podcasts and stuff, because at least, you know, someone will find the media later on. They're like, who the fuck is Riff Tacos? And
yeah, it's going to be weird once the internet is like 200 years old
What
and you
is
can
that gonna
still go
look like?
back and see shit in HD, when like we look at old pictures now, it's like blurry and black
Yeah.
and white, and you're like, you can barely see anything, but you can see people like 1,000 years from now, and YouTube, if YouTube's still what it is and your channel's still there, you know, people can go watch anything like, you know, in full definition. And that's really weird.
Well, that's what I mean. That's why I think about music and creating art, right? Because if you know, some of this, I get a little worried about digital media compared to, I mean, I guess you could feel the same about physical media and stuff being ruined by the environment or, you know, whatever, by not taking care of it. But like, so I think about like generational from like music that was, it's like my dad, like, I think about music that he liked. Like, he put me on Steely Dan way back in the day, and grew up in his teen years listening to ZZ Top, drinking pints of beer, driving around, you know, Florida and surfing and stuff. And then, you know, the generation before him, I mean, that's like early, you know, rock. I mean, like, it was, you know, I guess people were kind of dabbling in rock and blues and stuff, but it's not too far off, right? And then you think about generations after us, you know, like great grandchildren of mine, right, listening to Nights Like These and From a Second Story Window. Like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. And at what point do we hit where like all the type of music has been done?
Well, that's when they
Like,
have AI, you know, having chart topping hits, man, because they're doing it right now in country music.
yeah, that just like, I don't want to say it shouldn't be allowed, because everyone should be able to do whatever they want, but they should have a separate charting system. Here's the AI charts.
It's got
and you shouldn't be able to monetize it in the same way as a real artist can.
I
if
listened
you're not
to it. For the country artist, I can't remember what it was called. I was playing it the other night just because I was couldn't.
There's some good shit.
I was like blown away. I was like, this sounds like deep South country. It sounds very authentic. I would have no idea. I could not tell it apart. If you played it live, I'd be like, yeah, wow, it sounds like, yeah, cool. Like, whatever. Like, you would, that's mind blowing, man. And so you think about like what music will be like then. It'll either be AI produced music, and it'll take references from all the music created up until now, and you could just put in a query of like, I want it to sound like this mixed with this, and it'll, you know, shit it out. Or it's going to be beep, boop, boop, beep, beep, and that'll be music.
Yeah. That part of the, like, I know a lot of people are so mad about AI, and it's like, it's stealing people's art, blah, blah, blah. But like, there's no difference for AI is not directly going to your song and going, I like that part, I'm going to, you know, it has access to everything ever. Right. So it's taking inspiration the same as humans do. We all listen to a million bands we like, and we borrow this inspiration, whatever. It's doing the same fucking thing. I have no problem with that. I only have a problem if someone's lying and saying they created something that they didn't.
Yeah. I get you. I feel you on that. I feel you.
It's the same thing humans do. It's just, it's not like they're stealing directly from your art, unless you know, it's just, it has access to everything ever. So it's just this big,
and they're,
you know,
and it's just
pod
way,
of shit.
It's way faster and less critical of itself and creating it.
Yeah. Have you heard the 50 Cent Soul cover? I'll send it to you.
Okay.
So this guy made is it Get Rich or Die Trying. It sounds like 50 soul music. It is fucking so good. It was the first AI thing I heard. I was like, I'll actually listen to this. And one of the songs like inspired what, like, an idea for one of me and Mike's new songs, because it's so fucking good.
Oh yeah, no, send it to me. I'll listen.
You wouldn't believe like, this guy would be huge probably if it was a real person. Obviously, see, that is a problem too. So he's using 50 Cent's lyrics and his beats and songs. I mean, they are different, but where's the rule there?
Yeah.
Because I guess there's a cover, you know, when you upload music, you can say this is a cover. So they have different rules for monetizing it mainly, but that's a direct theft. Arguably, he's using 50 Cent songs and lyrics. That is not, I've heard every rock song ever, I'm going to write a rock song. So it's like, what, you stole from all of them?
Yeah.
Like, that's different.
That's different. No, I get that too. It's still, dude, the technology like blows my mind still. I'm just like, Uh,
Yeah.
I,
What about in medicine in your field? Like,
um, man, so like, it's funny. Like, so I think about, you know, kind of my past and being like, man, fuck the man, and like being this really angry, like I'm against all of like we trying to make money off people and pushing pills out there and doing this, and it's unsafe for the world, and like taking advantage of people, and uh big insurance and big pharma are the enemy, and like um now that I'm like I had a unique path from actually being at the bedside, working, I worked on the ambulance. I started at the bottom of the rung. Not that that's at the
oh, that's
bottom of
right.
the
Yeah.
rung, but like I, I was in, as like a quote unquote first responder, and, people don't get paid a lot for what they do. And like, you're the first people there. And I worked that lifestyle. I saw that world. So emergency medicine. And then I worked
Yeah.
as a registered nurse, and I worked in ICU and then the emergency departments, and worked in some specialized areas of that, got exposed to a lot of stuff. And you're doing the work, man. Nursing is so challenging to the mind and the body. It's so exhausting. I would put
Oh, I
it
can't
up
imagine,
against,
dude.
and the environments that I was in, and I like kind of had this like cowboy mentality and would chase the most extreme environments to help people, but I just chased that adrenaline. But it is, I would put it up against a lot of other stuff in, any other industry that is challenging. And like, give me your argument, because the stuff that I have seen and done and been through, it's exhausting and it's awful, and it is
I was
draining.
gonna say the trauma you see, like,
It's draining. There's high points, and then there are the lows, the lowest of the lows, man, like the horrible stuff, and it's exhausting. And
yeah.
then, I'm like, okay, I want to help people more. How do I do that? I'd like to. I'm really interested in medicine, and I want to be able to treat and diagnose and prescribe and do all these things. I'm not going to med school. It's too late for med school. I'm
Right.
going to go to grad school and do my nurse practitioner stuff, because I know that I can at least impact patients more doing that. And
Mm.
so you get involved in that stuff, and you see a whole nother level of medicine. And then I think taking the bulk of that background and then leaving bedside practice, switching that to, working in the pharmaceutical industry now, which like, you would say that's the dark side, man. Like, you're a traitor. You went over to the bad guys. At first it felt very hypocritical, because I had to sell something. And I'd say I've switched from like an early role, and I now, I'll say this for what it is. Our country is not perfect. Uh, you know, the insurance companies play a big role in this stuff. Our government plays a big role in this stuff. Uh, and then even, the pharmaceutical companies play a big role in this stuff. And they play the game how the U.S. dictates it, and then the other countries, they play the game how their countries dictate it. It's just how it works. And if, for me personally, I feel like everybody should have access to everything. Why does one
Yeah.
person get the special access to this drug versus another person based off what money they make and what kind of coverage they have?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think that healthcare is a right, and I think that everybody should have access to it equally. But it's a not an easy system to navigate. It's not. It's very challenging, man, the way that our country has it set up. And I don't know that any other country has done anything maybe better. I don't know. I mean, I've never lived anywhere else. I've heard things, like I'm going to go to Canada because everybody gets healthcare. Well, yeah, you have to wait, right? Because everybody gets to choose what they want to do. But you have to wait.
And you got to question quality
Yeah,
when it's free for everybody
exactly.
too.
And
So like it's like, where's the happy medium where everyone can get access?
yeah, so
But you're not stuck waiting forever, and
especially
you still get the best quality. Like,
especially for big countries, right? And then I think
Yeah.
Taiwan has something similar, but they're so small, they're able to do that a little bit better. I
yeah,
don't
it's
know.
just not as simple as people like it should be free for all. It's like, okay, I agree, but
But
it's not that simple where
it's
you can just flip a switch and
it's over my head,
like,
man. In a perfect world, I would love everybody to get the same access that everybody has and get opportunity to try the newest medicine that hits the market. Because I love medicine. I think it's fascinating. The stuff that they're doing, we're talking about changes in the future of, healthcare and healthcare delivery and, medicine delivery. And there's so much cool stuff out there that's coming.
yeah,
There's
for
so,
every terrible thing you hear and like, there's still amazing things happening that really do help people.
and there are
Like
people out
it's
there
not all bad and like
every day in these companies that work and their R&D departments trying to figure out how to cure some of the most complex diseases that and then even finding something that remotely works and then proving it works and then getting it to market and taking that, it's not easy. And we have one of the most, strict, um, groups in the FDA that protects us, but also makes it a little bit harder to bring things quicker to market. But you know,
right.
yeah, I was kind of rambling, but the main thing is I think the future is bright. The area that I can't really speak to it, that where I work specifically, but I'm proud to be there. I don't feel as hypocritical where I'm at right now. I do a lot of training, and I teach a lot of physicians and resident physicians how to do something very specific with what we make, and I'm able to impact a very specific group that has a very specific need, and it makes me proud to be able to help those people. And I'm not in there. I think it's a misnomer that we walk around and I'm whining and dining people, and like that's not how this works. Like the way how we do our job now is like we better bring value to who we're talking to, or we'll never talk to you again. If we don't know what we're talking
Mm.
about, and I can't help you solve a problem or help treat your patients, then I'm doing you a disservice, and you'll never want to talk to me again. So uh, I'm proud to say that I can achieve all of those things with my job. I'm excited about the things that are coming in, the next few years, 10 years, 15 years, and they have all these things. You think about every company, they all have stuff in what we call a pipeline that they're studying. And you just
Mhm.
think about all this stuff that people are working on. And man, even 10 years, I think it'll be drastically different on some of these diseases. And I'm hopefully in my lifetime, we'll see some cures or major treatment advances in some very uh, unfortunate diseases. Obviously cancer, and then a personal one for me, which is ALS or Lou Gehrig's, which is what my own grandfather died from. And that's very hard to treat. And I treated that myself in practice, and it's complicated. And it would. I think in our lifetime we will see some huge leaps because it only increases. And look how far we've come in the past
Yeah,
20.
exponentially. Especially like that's what I was saying, like with AI in medicine, like who knows where
Oh
that will
man,
go.
I know it's gonna be. I think some things will be replaceable in a way, um, but if we use it the right way, and I hope as a tool in discovery, and you know, I think the sky's the limit. So I mean, it's
Yeah.
pretty
I see
fascinating.
the good stuff in it, and like obviously I'm no expert, but I'm excited. I'm aware of the dangers and the bad
Yeah.
things, but I think there's so much good stuff to come out of it. Sans entering some sci-fi nightmare, which I think people are. It's a real fear, but I think they're exaggerating how close we are to something like that.
I'm with you. So before my bev is empty, so before we go, I'm going to leave you with this. We're talking about medical advancements. So we had in one of the journals, we had a study done on the pediatric population that were patients were born without eyelids, and eyelids are important. You need them to cover your eyelid. I mean, your eyes, your cornea from drying out, etc. You can go blind. So you're always looking for ways to kind of control that and try to help these patients. So you do a skin graft. So the latest thing that they've been doing is doing skin graft from genitalia foreskin because it's similar consistency, and you can kind of attach that and put that over the eye and make that work a little bit better. So
That's crazy.
yeah, it's wild. And but the only issue that they've found with those patients is they're a little cockeyed.
You totally had me there. I did not see that coming.
Okay. I had to leave you with my dad joke.
I was waiting for some profound medical breakthrough. Just get a dick joke. Well done, sir.
Oh,
my
man,
God.
I love you. I just had to do that real quick. I had to get that off my chest.
I love you for that. That's great. Well, yeah, man, we could wrap it up here. It's awesome to get to see you. We'll, of course, have to do it again sometime.
Let's do it, buddy. Man, I'm glad to be on. I'm glad you got it going back and doing it the way you want to do the podcast. So props to you. And I'm around anytime, man. So please holler at me. We'll be in touch for sure, man.
Absolutely, man. It was great to talk to you. And thank you guys for listening and everyone who tuned back in. I appreciated all the messages when I was off of like, hey, where's the podcast? I'm missing it every Monday. And that really helped me to go, okay, I got to get back and figure this out. And I said I wasn't going to quit. I'm not going to quit. I needed a break. So it was great. I feel refreshed. And thanks for listening. And we'll see you soon.
See ya.